Ever wonder why your 30s feel like financial quicksand? One day you're earning well. The next day your money disappears. And everyone else seems to be thriving here. Why it's not your fault. The 30s are often called the messy middle for a reason. This is the decade where life pressures converge in ways that are difficult to predict and almost impossible to control fully. On the surface, it can feel like a time of progress and stability. You might be earning more than ever before, perhaps moving up in your career, or even thinking about bigger life milestones like buying a home or starting a family. Yet, beneath that surface, there is a constant tug of competing priorities, responsibilities, and expectations that make it feel as though you are treading water financially. No matter how hard you work, the sense of being overwhelmed is not a sign of failure. It is the natural byproduct of living in a stage of life where the stakes are higher and the consequences of decisions feel immediate and permanent. During this period, there is a simultaneous pressure from multiple directions. Career expectations demand that you continue climbing a ladder whose steps often feel invisible and subjective. Promotions, raises, and recognition rarely come with guarantees. Yet the perception exists that you must achieve them to maintain pace with peers. At the same time, family obligations may expand. You could be raising children, supporting aging parents, or navigating relationships that carry financial responsibilities. Each of these demands requires resources, time, and emotional energy, which can reduce the bandwidth available to focus on long-term financial planning. Social pressures further complicate the picture. The world around you often presents a misleading comparison. Friends may buy houses, travel frequently, or showcase lavish experiences on social media. These curated glimpses of others' lives create a distorted perception of success, making it seem like everyone else has figured out finances while you are struggling to keep up. This comparison can make ordinary spending feel inadequate or late stage, generating stress that is more psychological than practical. People forget that outward appearances rarely reflect real financial stability. Financial responsibilities during this decade also increase naturally. Rent or mortgage payments rise, childcare or educational expenses emerge, and day-to-day living costs expand. The result is that even with a higher income, your effective disposable income may not increase proportionally. Suddenly, money that felt abundant in your 20s seems insufficient, and the sense of treading water intensifies. This phase can create the illusion of financial stagnation, though in reality, growth is occurring just at a pace that may feel slower due to the weight of obligations and rising costs. Part of what makes this decade challenging is the complexity of financial choices. Decisions about saving, investing, paying down debt, or planning for major life events all compete for attention. Each choice carries consequences that are often delayed, creating tension between short-term needs and long-term goals. The balance between maintaining quality of life and preparing for the future requires strategic thinking and a degree of patience that is difficult to sustain amid daily pressures. Many people misinterpret setbacks or delays as personal failures, when in fact they are common experiences for anyone navigating this stage of life. Psychologically, the messy middle tests resilience. It challenges assumptions about financial security and personal capability. Feeling behind is often more a reflection of context than competence. Those who eventually achieve financial stability and wealth rarely escape these pressures. They learn to operate effectively within them. They understand that the appearance of ease in others' lives is often a veneer, and the key is persistence and consistent action rather than perfection or timing. Recognizing the universality of this experience can relieve pressure, allowing individuals to focus on decisions and behaviors they can control, rather than constantly comparing themselves to unrealistic standards. Ultimately, the messy middle is a stage of accumulation, learning, and adaptation. The financial chaos, overlapping responsibilities, and pressures from multiple directions are the environment in which long-term habits are formed. Those who navigate it successfully do so by understanding that this period is inherently complex and unpredictable. Feeling overwhelmed or behind is not evidence of failure. It is simply a natural response to living fully in a decade defined by growth, responsibility, and opportunity. It is within this turbulence that the foundations for lasting financial stability are quietly laid, often without immediate recognition. The perception of being behind financially in your 30s is often fueled by comparison rather than reality. Social media amplifies this effect, presenting a continuous stream of curated highlights that make it appear as though everyone else has life completely figured out. Friends and acquaintances display milestones such as buying homes, traveling, or making visible investments, creating a distorted image of financial success. These portrayals rarely include the full context: student loans, credit card debt, mortgage obligations, or delayed investments, and yet they establish an internal benchmark against which people measure themselves. The result is a persistent feeling of inadequacy, even when one's own financial situation is healthier than it appears in comparison. Data on net worth in the 30s reinforces the idea that most people are not as far ahead as they might seem. The median net worth for someone around age 30 is approximately $39,000, which includes all assets minus liabilities. However, a large portion of that is often tied up in illiquid assets, such as a car or home equity, leaving the actual cash or investments at a much smaller figure, sometimes around $17,000. While this may feel low compared to peers, highlight reels, it is important to understand that it represents a typical starting point for long-term wealth accumulation. Many individuals do not start investing seriously until their early to mid-30s, and the first-time homebuyer in the U.S. averages around 40 years old, which indicates that financial growth occurs gradually and does not always align with appearances. The contrast between perception and reality becomes even more pronounced when considering lifestyle choices. The 30s are often a period of increased spending due to life milestones. Expenses such as weddings, children, homeownership, or higher cost of living adjustments can consume significant portions of income, even with a higher salary than in one's 20s. Discretionary income may feel limited because obligations expand simultaneously. Observing peers who appear to be managing wealth effortlessly can intensify the feeling of being behind, even though their actual financial circumstances may include similar or even greater challenges. Financial comparison also distorts priorities. People may focus excessively on matching perceived success, allocating resources toward visible symbols of prosperity rather than long-term financial growth. This misalignment between spending and actual progress can create a cycle of stress and perceived failure. Meanwhile, those who measure progress against personal benchmarks rather than external appearances tend to maintain steadier financial growth, avoiding the pitfalls of lifestyle inflation and social pressure. Understanding that perceived financial inadequacy is largely a matter of context rather than objective reality shifts the perspective on the 30s. The decade is not about racing against peers or meeting arbitrary milestones, but about building consistent habits and strategies over time. Many who ultimately achieve significant wealth and stability experienced similar feelings of being behind during this stage. Their outward success often masks the years of incremental progress, delayed gratification, and learning from mistakes that occurred during the messy middle. Society's emphasis on visible markers of success reinforces the illusion. Houses, vacations, cars, and social media posts create a sense of urgency and scarcity that may not reflect actual financial health. People tend to internalize these signals, equating external appearances with competence, which can lead to stress, poor financial decisions, or unnecessary risk-taking. Meanwhile, those who focus on incremental progress and long-term consistency understand that true wealth is built quietly, often without external validation. The discrepancy between perception and reality also affects self-confidence. Feeling behind financially can erode belief in one's ability to build wealth. Despite evidence that small, consistent actions compound over time, recognizing that most people in their 30s are starting at a similar point, and that visible success is often an illusion, restores perspective. It highlights that the critical factor is sustained effort, informed decision-making, and patience, rather than comparison to others who appear ahead. Ultimately, the sense of being behind is more psychological than actual. Social and cultural signals exaggerate differences, while objective data shows that most people are progressing at a similar pace. The challenge of the 30s is learning to navigate this perception gap, focusing on personal growth, and understanding that long-term financial success is a product of persistence, strategy, and time rather than immediate achievement or peer comparison. Compound interest and time are two of the most powerful forces in wealth building, particularly during the 30s. Even modest investments made during this decade have the potential to grow exponentially over the years, transforming small contributions into significant financial resources. The principle of compound interest is straightforward. The money you invest earns returns, and those returns themselves begin to earn returns. This creates a snowball effect where growth accelerates over time, often unnoticed in the early stages. In the beginning, the progress may appear slow because the majority of the account's growth comes from your own contributions rather than the compounding effect. It is only after several years that the returns on returns begin to dominate, turning consistent investment into a powerful engine of wealth creation. Time amplifies the effects of compound interest, and starting in your 30s is far from too late. For someone who begins investing at age 30, every dollar contributed has the potential to multiply 20-fold by the time they retire. Even starting in the late 30s allows for substantial growth, with each dollar having the potential to multiply several times before retirement. This demonstrates that the key to building wealth is less about immediate outcomes and more about allowing investments to grow over extended periods. The passage of years transforms small, regular contributions into a foundation for financial security that can be difficult to achieve through savings alone. The power of compound interest also highlights the importance of consistency, regularly contributing to retirement accounts, index funds, or other investment vehicles creates the base on which compounding operates. Even if contributions are small initially, they provide the essential material that grows over time. Early years are often the slowest in terms of visible results, but this period is crucial for laying a foundation. Each contribution, no matter how modest, becomes a building block that grows more valuable with each passing year. The compounding process rewards patience and persistence, making it one of the most effective mechanisms for turning ordinary financial behavior into extraordinary outcomes. Compound interest is not limited to financial assets. Time also works on skills, knowledge, and career opportunities. As experience accumulates, income potential tends to rise, increasing the ability to invest more over time. This creates a feedback loop. Higher income allows for more contributions, which then benefit from compounding, accelerating overall wealth accumulation. The combination of rising income and compounding returns demonstrates why time in the 30s is a critical period for establishing long-term financial stability. Decisions made in this decade can have disproportionate effects decades later, emphasizing the importance of early engagement with investment and saving strategies. The subtlety of compound interest is that it rarely produces dramatic results in the first few years. Contributions grow gradually, often leading to impatience or doubt about the effectiveness of investing. However, this initial period is necessary for establishing the momentum that later accelerates growth. By the second or third decade of contributions, compounding dominates the growth trajectory, allowing individuals to achieve financial milestones with less additional effort. Understanding this timeline reinforces the value of starting early and remaining consistent, even when progress seems minimal. Time also magnifies the differences between disciplined financial behavior and inconsistent or delayed action. Those who begin investing and saving early in their 30s benefit from compounding even if life circumstances are chaotic, while those who delay until later decades may need to invest much larger amounts to reach similar outcomes. The earlier contributions allow for gradual growth, whereas delayed action often requires aggressive saving or higher risk strategies to catch up. Ultimately, the interaction between time and compound interest illustrates that building wealth is a long-term process, not a short-term achievement. The 30s provide a critical window in which consistent action, patience, and the passage of years can transform modest investments into substantial financial security. Compound interest is the engine, and time is the fuel, combining to create exponential growth that can support a lifetime of stability, opportunity, and freedom. This principle underscores why financial decisions in the 30s matter profoundly, even when the immediate results seem small or insignificant. Lifestyle inflation is one of the most significant factors affecting wealth accumulation in the 30s. As income increases, it is natural for spending to rise, but this gradual increase often absorbs the extra earnings entirely, preventing meaningful financial growth. When a person receives a raise or promotion, there is an instinct to upgrade living standards: bigger apartment, nicer car, more expensive vacations, or frequent dining out. While these improvements may provide temporary satisfaction, they also create new financial obligations that match or exceed the additional income. This cycle keeps disposable income largely unchanged, making it feel as though progress has stalled despite earning more. The subtle nature of lifestyle inflation often disguises its impact until years of additional spending accumulate and financial growth is stunted. The relationship between income, spending, and investment is central to understanding this phenomenon. When extra income is directed toward lifestyle upgrades rather than financial growth, the compounding effects of savings and investments are delayed. Even a moderate increase in spending can offset the potential growth that could have been achieved through investing, particularly when considering the multiplier effect of compound interest over decades. Individuals who allow lifestyle costs to rise in step with income often find that they remain in a cycle of living paycheck to paycheck, but at a higher financial level, with greater responsibilities and less flexibility. Conversely, maintaining spending habits despite rising income allows the additional earnings to be allocated to investments, savings, or retirement accounts. This approach creates a compounding effect not just on the invested capital, but also on future earning potential. The longer the period in which extra income is diverted into wealth-building activities rather than consumption, the more pronounced the long-term effects. By the time a person reaches their late 30s or early 40s, the accumulation from consistent investment of additional income begins to outpace the incremental satisfaction derived from lifestyle upgrades, demonstrating the cumulative power of disciplined financial behavior. Lifestyle inflation also interacts with financial obligations that naturally increase during the 30s. Housing costs, family-related expenses, insurance premiums, and educational costs often rise simultaneously with income. The combination of higher spending on wants and increasing necessities can create a perception of stagnation. Even when income grows, managing these obligations alongside discretionary spending requires careful attention, because failing to monitor the balance between lifestyle choices and financial growth can result in a prolonged period of limited wealth accumulation. The subtle creep of higher spending undermines financial stability while masking its effects in the short term, making it difficult to recognize until a significant opportunity to invest or save has been missed. Psychologically, lifestyle inflation is reinforced by social comparisons. Seeing peers enjoy visible markers of success, new cars, homes, vacations creates a sense of urgency to match perceived achievements. This drives spending decisions that prioritize appearances over long-term wealth creation. While it may feel socially necessary to maintain parity, these choices often work against financial progress, particularly when compounded over multiple years. The pressure to maintain or exceed social standards can lead to the continuous expansion of financial commitments without corresponding growth in net worth or investments. Additionally, lifestyle inflation affects long-term financial resilience. When income rises but spending grows proportionally, emergency funds, investment portfolios, and retirement savings may not increase at the pace necessary to protect against unexpected expenses or opportunities. This lack of financial flexibility can create a vulnerability that undermines both security and potential wealth growth. Even small, incremental increases in spending over time can accumulate to substantial sums, reducing the effectiveness of long-term financial planning and delaying the benefits of compound interest. Ultimately, lifestyle inflation acts as a silent drain on financial potential. It occurs gradually and invisibly, often disguised as natural or deserved improvements in living standards. The interplay between rising income, increased spending, and delayed investment can create the illusion of financial stagnation, even when one is earning significantly more than in previous years. The compounding effects of lifestyle inflation over time have the power to determine whether wealth accumulation accelerates or stalls during a decade that is otherwise rich with opportunity for growth. It highlights the importance of understanding the relationship between income, spending, and long-term financial outcomes, as the consequences of choices in the 30s reverberate for decades to come. During the 30s, simplicity and persistence become critical elements of financial growth because this decade is marked by competing responsibilities, distractions, and unexpected life events. While it can be tempting to pursue complex strategies or chase high-risk opportunities in an attempt to accelerate wealth, these approaches often create more stress than benefit, particularly when time and attention are already constrained. A straightforward approach to money management, consistent saving, disciplined investing, and maintaining a clear view of one's financial picture tends to outperform complicated maneuvers over the long term. The 30s are not a period for experimenting recklessly with finances. They are a time for laying a foundation that can support decades of growth. Emergency funds are a fundamental component of this foundation. Unexpected events, whether a car repair, medical expense, or sudden job change, can derail progress if there is no buffer. Having a reserve of 3 to 6 months of expenses provides both security and flexibility, allowing for decision-making that is deliberate rather than reactive. It creates an environment in which financial setbacks do not result in cascading consequences, and it enables individuals to take advantage of opportunities that require liquidity. Cash on hand, even if it does not earn significant returns, functions as a form of wealth that is often overlooked because it is not invested or flashy. Account consolidation is another aspect of simplicity that carries long-term benefits. By consolidating retirement accounts or investment accounts from previous employers, an individual gains a clearer understanding of their overall financial position, reduces fees, and simplifies portfolio management. This straightforward step removes unnecessary complexity and allows for better oversight, ensuring that investments are performing in line with objectives. Having a single view of accounts reduces the likelihood of overlooked assets or redundant fees and facilitates easier rebalancing and adjustment as life circumstances change. Investment strategies in the 30s benefit from being simple and consistent. Index funds, target date funds, and automated investing tools allow for steady participation in the growth of the market without requiring the individual to become a financial analyst. Attempting to time the market, pick individual stocks, or chase trends can consume attention and energy while producing unpredictable results. Over decades, consistent contributions to diversified, low-cost investments compound quietly but powerfully, outperforming sporadic or overly complex approaches. Simplicity in investing also reduces the emotional strain of market fluctuations, making it easier to remain disciplined during volatile periods. Persistence is equally important. Progress in wealth accumulation is rarely linear, especially during a decade filled with life interruptions. Some months may result in higher savings, while others may require unexpected spending. The ability to maintain consistent habits, even through periods of financial challenge or distraction, is what differentiates long-term success from stagnation. Wealth grows through repeated actions, accumulated over years, rather than sudden leaps. The discipline to contribute regularly, monitor accounts, and maintain clarity about financial goals ensures that compounding works effectively. Even amid the chaos of daily life, time magnifies both simplicity and persistence. Decisions made in the 30s, even small ones, have far-reaching consequences due to compound interest and the cumulative nature of investing. A consistent, low-maintenance approach enables sustained growth, while minimizing the risk of mistakes that can have disproportionate impacts. The quiet, steady accumulation of assets often goes unnoticed in the moment, but over decades it can produce transformative results. The 30s are a period of laying groundwork that will pay dividends later. And the strategies that achieve this are rarely flashy or complex, they are practical, manageable, and repeatable. The combination of simplicity and persistence addresses the two primary challenges of financial growth during the 30s: limited time and competing responsibilities. By focusing on clear, achievable actions, maintaining emergency funds, consolidating accounts, investing consistently, and monitoring progress, individuals create a resilient framework that can weather disruptions while steadily building wealth. Over time, these consistent efforts compound in effect, producing outcomes far greater than could be achieved through sporadic bursts of activity or overly complicated strategies. The power of the 30s lies not in perfection, but in ongoing, disciplined action that leverages the unique combination of time, income potential, and financial learning available during this stage of life.